Hello, Year 3-4. I hope you're really well. Me, Mrs. Hares, Mrs. Jones and Mr. Fallows are really missing you at the moment, and we really wish we could have you all in school. We hope the home learning is going really well, and we are really enjoying hearing the brilliant emails that you're sending in to Mrs. Hares that she's relaying to us about all of the glorious stuff that you're doing at home. However, Mr. Smith, Mrs. Jones, Mrs. Hares and Mr. Fallows were sat around and we were talking about how the book's going so far. Then we realised, oh no, we've read chapter 6 and then chapter 8. We've missed chapter 7. So I apologise for that, we apologise for that, and I'm going to read that to you today. This chapter's chapter 7, Lost in the Forest of the Cruel Kalidars, this one here. If you've already listened to chapter 8, I might suggest that you might want to listen to chapter 7 and then re-listen to chapter 8 just because it probably make a little bit more sense, but don't worry if not. Okay, let's get reading. Well, I can tell you this for sure, little puppies. Everyone was mighty glad to have Lion with us after that, because every mile we walked on down the yellow brick road, the forest around us grew thicker and darker and scarier. Lion would let out a dreadful roar from time to time, just to warn off anyone or anything that might be lurking in the forest that night, which might spring out suddenly and attack us. We'd left the Munchkins and their lovely countryside well behind us now. There were no kind Munchkins to take us in and give us shelter and food, so that night, for the first time, we had to camp out. Tin Woodman chopped up enough wood to make a blazing fire, so at least we were warm, and Lion insisted a good fire would keep all the wild animals away, but that we would have to keep going and keep the flames crackling. Even the cruel Kalidars don't like fire, he said. What are Kalidars? Dorothy asked. You don't need to know, Lion replied, looking around him very nervously. And I don't want to talk about them. They frighten me silly. He lifted his head and sniffed the air. I am rather hungry. I smell deer. I think I shall go and catch my dinner. Oh, please don't kill deer, cried Tin Woodman. I couldn't bear it. I shall cry if you do. Then my jaw will rust again. Lion said no more about it, but kept licking his lips at the thought of a meal, which only reminded me of how hungry I was. If we go to sleep, Toto, Dorothy said, as we lay down together near the warmth of the fire, then we won't feel hungry any more. That sounded like sense, but I knew it wasn't true. Once I'm hungry even in my dreams. I've had more sausage dreams than hot dinners, if you see what I'm saying. Scarecrow was so kind to us. Even though he didn't like coming anywhere near the fire, he brought armfuls of dry leaves to cover Dorothy and me as we lay there. Sleep tight, he said, and then went to stand guard with Tin Woodman at a safe distance from the fire. Lion snored us to sleep, and by the time we woke the next morning, Scarecrow and Tin Woodman had collected a pile of nuts for our breakfast, and cracked them open too. I'd never much liked nuts until now, but perhaps I'd never been so hungry as I was that morning. Dorothy and I laid down, so to speak, while Tin Woodman and Scarecrow filled the basket with more nuts. There's a picture of them all. Dorothy oiled Tin Woodman's joints to make him feel looser after all the damp dew of the morning, and off we went on our way. It wasn't long before we came to the great chasm that cut right across the road. The forest was impenetrable on both sides. Impenetrable, in case you don't know, means the forest was so thick you couldn't find a way through it. Sometimes, little puppies, long words are best, and it makes me feel good to use them. Anyway, all you need to know is that there was no way for us to go. We stood on the edge of the great white chasm and looked down, which made me feel a little bit sick. It was too steep to climb down on our side, and too steep to climb up on the other side. Now what? Asked Tin Woodman. There they are, all looking down. We all thought about it for a long time. It seemed hopeless. Well, I think, Scarecrow began slowly, I think this. We can't fly over, can we? So logically, either we shall have to stop and stay where we are, or we'll just have to jump it. Nothing else for it. "How clever are you to think of that," said Dorothy, and Scarecrow looked suddenly so pleased with himself and so happy. Lion said then, "I'm a pretty good jumper, though I say it myself. I could jump this chasm, I think." "And when you jump, Lion, do you think you could carry us over on your back one by one?" asked Scarecrow. "I could try," Lion replied, trying his very best to sound brave. "But you'll all have to hold on very tight to my mane," he went on. "You first, perhaps, Scarecrow. You're made of straw, aren't you? So you must be the lightest. If I can't jump across with you on my back, then I can hardly do it with anyone heavier. Can I?" "Up you get, Scarecrow. Let's go for it before I can change my mind. You ready? Hang on." Then, to everyone's amazement, mine too, Lion didn't do a running jump. He just looped up onto the edge of the chasm, stopped for a moment or two, and then, as if he had springs in his legs, just took a great leap and landed easily on the other side. "How did you do that?" Scarecrow gasped. "Springing is what lions do," Lion said. And, as if to prove it, he sprang back over at once to fetch Tin Woodman, who climbed on his back and clung so tight that Lion had to ask him to loosen his grip because he couldn't breathe. When they landed on the other side, Tin Woodman fell off with quite a clang and a crash, but he was soon up on his feet and waving across at us quite happily. All was well. Then it was our turn. Somehow Dorothy managed to hold me tight and hang on to the lion's mane at the same time. For a moment, as Lion leapt over the gasping chasm below us, it seemed as if we were really flying. By the time we landed, I had my eyes closed. We were all safely across. Here is a picture, look, a double-page spread of the lion jumping over. It's a big, big leap. Can you see how far that drop is? But look, he's doing it with ease. Really, really well done to the lion. Dorothy said what we were all thinking. "How brave you were to do that, Lion." And Lion looked suddenly so pleased with himself and so happy. But our troubles were not over. On the other side of the chasm, the forest was even darker still. Even though it was still morning, the sky was almost as black as night. The yellow brick road led on ahead of us, our only comfort in the gloom around us. Lion lifted his head to scent the air, so I did too. I didn't like what I smelt, didn't like it at all, but I didn't know what it was. "I smell kalidars," said the lion. "They are near, and there are many. Walk softly as you can." Tin Woodman did his best, walking on tiptoes. He clanked softer now, but he still clanked. He couldn't help himself. "What are they like, these cruel kalidars?" Dorothy asked. "I don't think you want to know," said the lion, looking about him anxiously. "I do," said Dorothy. "Well then," Lion said, "since you ask, they have heads like tigers, bodies like bears, and claws as sharp as... I don't want to think about their claws. Believe me, you never want to meet a kalidar. If they hear us, we are done for. We all must be as quiet as a mouse." "I'm doing my best," said Tin Woodman, "but it's not easy being tin, you know." Then quite unexpectedly, and most unfortunately, the yellow brick road seemed simply to stop. It began again further on, but on the far side of a deep black hole in the road. "Oh no!" Dorothy cried. "It's another chasm, like the last one, only wider and deeper. We'll never be able to jump this one." Lion agreed. He stood there on the edge of the black hole, shaking his head. I'd have to be a kangaroo to jump this," he said, "and I'm not." Scarecrow was standing beside Lion, scratching his head, which he always seems to do when he was thinking. "Tell you what, I have an idea," he said. "You see that big tree over there? Now, if Tin Woodman could cut it down for us so that it fell right across, then we could walk over, couldn't we? Simple." We all looked at Scarecrow in utter disbelief. "What a great idea," Dorothy said. "Not a great idea," Scarecrow told her, "just a simple one. I haven't any brains, but I do have simple ideas from time to time." "I don't think you're simple at all," said Dorothy. "Hurry," said the lion, lifting his nose and scenting the air again. "The kalidars are close." I lifted my nose too. Rotten eggs. If these kalidars smelt like rotten eggs, then they were very close indeed. So Tin Woodman got to work right away, chopping down the tree, and soon it was toppling across falling with a huge crash and making just the bridge we needed. One by one we ran over, trying very hard not to look down. I was almost across with Dorothy and Scarecrow, but Tin Woodman and Lion were behind us and only halfway over when we all heard a terrible snarling and growling. Out of the trees they came, charging towards the bridge. Towards us, 2 ferocious-looking Kalidars. Monstrous they were, half tiger and half bear. "Get across!" cried Lion, turning to face them and roaring his defiance. "I shall stay here and fight them. Go, go, I won't let them pass. Don't worry, just go." So we did, as he said, and ran for it until we were all safely across. When we looked, we saw Lion was still there on the tree trunk over the black hole, roaring his worst, flashing his claws, shaking his mane, baring his teeth. But I could see, we could all see, that the Kalidars were coming closer all the time, about to pounce on him. There were 2 of them and 1 of him, and they were each twice his size, with claws as big and as sharp as Uncle Henry's back home in Kansas. Suddenly, Tin Woodman had his axe in his hand and was chopping away at the branches of the tree on our side of the black hole. "Lion!" cried Tin Woodman as he chopped. "Listen to me, Lion. I shall chop 6 more times, and then the tree will fall down into the ravine. On the 5th chop, turn and run back to us as fast as you can. You hear me?" "I hear you," cried Lion. "I'm not that good at counting, but I'll do my best. Keep chopping." 1 chop, 2 chop, 3 chop, and everyone was counting out loud now to help Lion. Me too. The Kalidars were almost on him, and he was still roaring at them. 4 chop, 5 chop. "Run, Lion, run!" we all shouted. Lion turned and raced back along the bridge. 6 chop. The tree was shaking, slipping, falling. At the very last moment, the Lion leapt to safety. Down into the rocky depths of the black hole went the tree, and those dreadful Kalidars with it. Lion took a deep breath. "My poor heart is pounding with fear." There's a picture of the Kalidars going after the Lion. Can you see how close they got to him? Luckily, though, he managed to get to safety. I thought we were done for, but it seems we shall all have a little longer to live after all. "I rather like that idea," said Scarecrow. "To live a little longer, I mean. With or without brains, I don't think I should like not to be alive." And Dorothy clapped her hands and told them all how wonderfully clever and brave they had been. And I barked and barked till my head ached with it, telling them exactly the same thing. It's a funny thing, but I reckon that fight with those horrible Kalidar creatures turned out to be just about the best thing that could have happened to us. After that, we all felt like one big family. True, a strange sort of family. Every one of us was mighty different. But we all knew that if we stuck together, everything would turn out just fine. Together we had beaten the Kalidars, together we would reach the Emerald City. Whatever dangers we might have to face on the way, we would face them together. Lion and I padded along together ahead of the others, the best of friends, on the lookout for trouble. And behind us came the rest, arm in arm, sometimes singing as they went, Tin Woodman's great feet clanking on the yellow brick road. There never was a happier band, except for 2 things. I was getting mighty fed up by this time with eating nothing but nuts, and Dorothy's singing wasn't getting any better either. Fantastic. That is the end of our chapter 7. So you've got chapter 8 that you can watch. So the next time you hear one of us read and the next upload will be chapter 9. Hope you're enjoying it so far. I certainly am too. We hope you're all enjoying your home learning, and we look forward to seeing you soon. All right, take care. Bye-bye.